that you need to know about your favorite teams and players right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Sehgal.
And I'm Hem Kaur Suraya. And on the show, of course, tensions are on the boil in West Asia. At least 35 people have been killed in an Israeli strike in Rafah. The IDF claims that it struck a Hamas compound in the area, killing 2 senior officials from the militant group. That being said, there are also hopes of ceasefire talks resuming this week. How will things unfold on that front? That's something that remains to be seen.
Also on the show today, as per reports, China is gearing up to send a fleet of ferries and civilian warships to assert claims over Taiwan. This is perhaps another sign of Beijing stepping up pressure on the self-ruled island. We'll get you the complete report on the show today. But first, a quick check on the headlines.
Hamas fires 8 rockets towards Tel Aviv on Sunday afternoon, marking the most significant attack out of Gaza Strip in around 4 months.
Gaza Health Ministry claims at least 35 killed and dozens more injured as a result of Israeli air attacks on camp for displaced people in Rafah.
Speculations of China preparing armada of ferries and civilian vessels to invade Taiwan gathers steam as Beijing steps up pressure against Taipei.
UN estimates at least 670 killed in Papua New Guinea landslide. Authorities scramble to establish evacuation centers on safer ground on either side of massive swathe of debris.
North Korea reportedly notifies Japan of plan to launch space rocket carrying satellite between Monday and midnight of the 3rd of June.
France's Macron touts indispensable ties with Berlin. Questions lacking support for Ukraine on first by French president in nearly 24 years.
Macron decides to lift New Caledonia emergency Monday evening. Statement by Paris displays desire to start de-escalation process and re-establish dialogue conditions.
with winds touching speeds of 13 kilometers per hour. Cyclone Remal makes landfall on Bengal coast, leaves trail of destruction.
Davis Riley wins his maiden PGA Tour title by reigning supreme at the Charles Schwab Challenge. The 27-year-old dedicates his win to fellow American golfer Grayson Murray, who passed away at the age of 30.
The Israeli military is determined to remove Hamas from the face of the earth. In keeping up with its operation for the same, IDF has carried out fresh strikes in Rafah.
Right, and according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, at least 35 people have been killed in the latest Israeli attack. A fire, it raged following the strike in the area. Israel's military had said that it had carried out a precise strike on a Hamas compound in Rafah. The military also said that it was aware that the strikes harmed civilians and that it was reviewing the situation here.
The strike took place in Tal al-Sultan in Rafah's northwest based on precise intelligence, according to the IDF. Now, the footage after the attack showed people rummaging through the rubble and carrying bodies into emergency vehicles.
The International Committee of the Red Cross said its field hospital in Rafah was receiving an influx of casualties and that other hospitals were also taking in a large number of patients.
Denouncing the attacks in Rafah, Palestinian presidency on Monday accused Israel of targeting a center for displaced people and also called the strike a massacre, as millions of displaced Palestinians are taking refuge in Rafah after fleeing their homes due to the relentless attacks by the IDF.
The attack comes after rocket sirens blared in Israel's commercial hub of Tel Aviv for the first time in months on Sunday, with at least 3 blasts across central Israel. Hamas militants fired a salvo of rockets at Israel's commercial hub, sending people scrambling for shelter.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden's administration is following the situation of strikes on displaced people in Rafah. The White House National Security Council said in a statement,
now remember, the latest attack in Rafah, it comes in the backdrop of International Court of Justice calling Israel to end its operations in Rafah, to which Israel said it needs to move into Rafah to complete its mission of defeating Hamas.
However, the ICJ ruled that Israel's war aims effectively violate the rights of Palestinians under the Genocide Convention.
Now, Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid has accused Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of trying to cause anarchy.
Right, well, Lapid's statement comes after Prime Minister Netanyahu's son helped circulate a video of an Israeli reservist threatening mutiny unless the government pursues, and I'm quoting here, total victory over Hamas militants. And the video was first shared on social media by pro-Netanyahu journalist Yanon Magad and later by the Prime Minister's son Yair Netanyahu on Telegram.
This footage shows massed Israeli troops vowing to defy orders from IDF Chief Herzi Halevi and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, while asserting that soldiers will only listen to the Prime Minister directly. The reservists also demanded for Gallant to step down from his duties. Yair Lapid has said that the Prime Minister was involved in the creation and circulation of the footage, while accusing Netanyahu of thinking only about his political survival. Lapid said, and I'm quoting here, if the Prime Minister helps spread messages against his Defense Minister and the IDF Chief, this is a call to anarchy.
Responding to the allegations, the Prime Minister's office asked the opposition leader to not spread fake news about Netanyahu. The video surfaced a week after the defense chief publicly disagreed with the Israeli governance of Gaza as a part of the post-war plan. He said, that the territory should be governed by Palestinian entities apart from Hamas and in collaboration with international bodies.
With one suspect already being tried, the Israeli military announced a criminal probe into the video on Saturday.
As Beijing intensifies its pressure campaign on Taiwan, according to a report, China is getting ready to invade the self-ruled island with a fleet of ferries and civilian vessels.
Right. Even though the People's Liberation Army lacks the number of amphibious landing craft, it could, however, bridge the gap with civilian vessels here. The civilian vessels could include dozens of gigantic roll-on, roll-off ferries that can each carry hundreds of armored vehicles. As per experts, civilian ferries could be a poor choice for such a massive operation, but at the same time, it can be very useful in transporting troops in masses across the Taiwan Strait after its coastal defenses are destroyed.
The involvement of ferries in cross-sea landing drills has been repeatedly praised by Chinese official media, which has long praised their efforts. Although it may seem strange, the whole concept of passenger ferries equipped for use in a combat zone. It illustrates how deeply China's private sector is linked to both the military strategy of the Beijing government and that of the country's ruling Communist Party.
Analysts noted that it also greatly increases the complexity of defense planning. Earlier last week, Beijing launched 2 days of military drills in the waters around Taiwan. China said that it was a response to the separatist acts after it denounced the inauguration speech by Lai Ching-te, who was sworn in as president.
The drills were conducted in the Taiwan Strait, the north, south and east of Taiwan, as well as areas around the Taiwan-controlled islands. Taiwan's defense ministry condemned the drills, saying that it had dispatched forces to areas around the island and was confident that it could protect its territory.
All right, for more on this, we're now being joined by Collins Chong, UK China Affairs Strategy and Security Expert, to discuss this further. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA.
Thank you. Good morning.
Sir, of course, I want to begin with this. Tensions between China and Taiwan, as you know, of course, are reaching a boiling point. And now latest report claims that China is preparing to send a fleet of ferries to invade Taiwan. This comes after China, of course, staged military drills, as we mentioned, around Taiwan. The question being, should Taiwan and the West now, considering how things are unfolding, be wary of China's civilian ferries likely to be used as their invasion fleet?
Yeah, we have seen how China has incorporated the private sector for the past many years, at least for the past 5 years now, that we have seen how civilian ferries are being used and a lot of modifications to, having this dual usage, both for civilian and military users. And we have seen how the Chinese concept of military-civil fusion. And of course, this is not new. And of course, the Americans have been well aware of the potentiality of China using that as an added advantage to the option of invading Taiwan. But we also see a lot of limitations in terms of those being, having a greater advantage to China. We have seen how Taiwan's geographical advantage on the east of Taiwan, as well as on the west of Taiwan, along the Taiwan Strait. We have seen how the combined forces of the US, possibly Japan, and allies in the region, putting all these civilian vessels, civilian assets of China at risk. Of course, we have also seen how China has consolidated its, whole of all of nation approach in terms of having its own destroyers, frigates, and submarines in protecting these civilian vessels. And of course, after destroying Taiwan's, defense, coastal defense capacities, but we have seen how amphibious assaults, amphibious landings are so complex, and it is difficult to see how the usage of these civilian vessels might have an added advantage for China, seeing how the combined deterrence and combined efforts by the US in deterring this potential advantage being given by the vessels.
Right. So you speak of how amphibious landing is complex, and China lacks the amphibious transport capacity which is required to conduct a cross-strait invasion. And thus, according to reports, it now relies on these civilian ferries. Talk to us more about China's quasi-civilian strategy against conventional military deterrence of other countries like Japan and the US.
Yes, we have seen how also the usage of its Coast Guard capacities, especially in the recent drill, we have seen now the Coast Guard being used for the first time. And of course, it has been used in South China Sea dispute for many years now. And whenever there's a real-time conflict, of course, China will use that to its own advantage, incorporating all elements that will give them the ultimate advantage during a real-time scenario of a conflict. But we have seen how conventional powers, and we cannot underestimate the capacities of self-defense by Taiwan, and the fact that China has not fought a war since the war in Vietnam, and lacking all this real-time military advantage in terms of planning for real-time scenarios, of which the US has clear advantage in this scenario.
Right, sir. In fact, I just want to bring this information in as well that we're just getting right now. Taipei said that it had detected 21 Chinese military aircraft, 15 Navy or Coast Guard vessels around Taiwan in the past 24 hours. And of course, as I mentioned, this after Beijing encircled the island in a massive military drill. That being said, how do you assess the situation? It's evolved since Lai Ching-te's swearing in. And do you think perhaps now there could be a timeline on what China plans to do with regard to Taiwan now?
Well, we have seen earlier reports that the US has estimated that by 2027, Taiwan will be the ultimate aim, by China in terms of, a full takeover. But then we have seen also this is an early warning to Lai Ching-te, and mainly for his inaugural speech or his inauguration ceremony, where there have been arguments that he has not followed the footsteps of his predecessor during the first inauguration speech in 2016 of aligning with the 1992 consensus, and because of this misstep and because of his own legacy of having this pro-independence capacity, and China will need to have this strong message to be given to Lai Ching-te and also, of course, to the DPP. But then we have also seen how this is also as testing the water kind of move by China in seeing how the US will respond, and seeing this lack of response during Pelosi's visit when he conducted this massive drill, and now it needs to have space for future escalation in terms of pressure and pressuring tactics and campaign. And this is how it is a common tactic that we have seen how China will use it in the future.
Right, Mr. Chong, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on World DNA with your insights.
Thank you.
Moving on, French President Emmanuel Macron began his Germany state visit on Sunday at the invitation of his counterpart, Frank-Walter Steinmeier.
Interestingly, it is the first such trip by a French president to Germany in 24 years. Shortly after landing in Berlin, Macron said that the partnership between Germany and France was indispensable for Europe. He went on to warn against lacking support for Ukraine in its defense against Russia.
La paix n'est pas la capitulation.
And to tell Europe and the world that this state couple, it is neither old nor young, it is alive, demanding, ambitious for our two countries, ambitious for our Europe, and ambitious because I am convinced that our two countries carry something that is a little greater than even a certain idea of the universal.
Celui du droit dans la durée.
The duo also emphasized the strong friendship between Germany and France and its importance for Europe.
German and French people in particular know that freedom, peace and democracy did not fall from the sky, but have to be won, negotiated, defended and consolidated. To be on the side of peace today means giving strength to the law. Peace, but not capitulation. We have too often seen this confusion in collective debates. Peace means enabling a country to defend its border and sovereignty.
After celebrating the 75th anniversary of the German Constitution, Macron and his wife attended an official dinner. The official residence of the German president. Among the guests were German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, former German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and head of the conservative opposition party Friedrich Merz, and other high-ranking German politicians. All right, at least 12 people were injured after Qatar Airways flight from Doha to Dublin was hit by turbulence on Sunday.
The turbulence took place while the Boeing plane was flying over Turkey. The injured included 6 passengers and 6 crew members.
Qatar Airways had confirmed that the flight, that's a Boeing B7879 from Doha to Dublin, landed safely as scheduled. Upon landing, it was met by emergency services, including airport police and the fire and rescue department.
I'm feeling okay. I've settled down now, but it was quite scary. The plane just seemed to go stop, which it didn't, but then dropped, quite a severe drop. And then fortunately the captain got it under control quite quickly, because I was thinking, oh, it's going to keep falling.
The incident comes after a British man died and dozens of people were severely injured on a Singapore Airlines flight that hit sudden and severe turbulence on Tuesday. The Boeing aircraft was forced to make an emergency landing in Bangkok, Thailand.
As per the health authorities, 20 people remain in intensive care while others sustain spinal cord, brain and skull injuries in this incident.
Following the incident, Singapore's flag carrier adopted a more cautious approach to managing turbulence. Under the revised policy, the airline said that the meal service will no longer be provided when the seat belt sign is on. The cabin crew will also continue to secure all loose items and equipment during poor weather conditions, and they will also continue to advise passengers to return to their seats and secure their seat belts. Meanwhile, rescue efforts are ongoing in Papua New Guinea following a deadly landslide on Friday.
Right, the landslide is projected to have claimed the lives of over 670 people. The landslide flattened an estimated 250 residential structures in a remote village in the nation's northern region, with close to 1,250 being left internally displaced.
Right, Aim. According to emergency responders, the landslide has deposited debris up to 8 meters deep across 200 square kilometers. Around 4,000 people are predicted to be living in and near the impacted area.
While the government and defence force have deployed extensive rescue efforts on ground, heavy equipment required for the rescue, such as excavators, are yet to reach the village. The remoteness and the uneven mountainous terrain are slowing down the rescue and aid efforts.
Well, there's also concern from rescue operators that the use of heavy machinery may be prevented by the locals until mourning and grieving obligations for the recovered are fulfilled.
The landslide has also rendered a section of the highway inaccessible, cutting off certain affected communities. These include the Pergair gold mine, operated by Papua New Guinea in a joint venture with China.
Heart-wrenching videos from ground zero of this calamity have spread across social media sites. In a few of them, villagers and local media teams can be seen scaling rocks, with many digging with sticks and their bare hands to find the survivors.
It's important to know that there has been no official counts on the deaths, though the United Nations Migration Agency on Sunday estimated more than 670 people have died. The agency based its death toll estimates on information that was provided by officials at the Yamble village in the Enga province, more than double the initial number of possible fatalities reported by the local media.
A humanitarian convoy has started distributing bottled water, clothing, hygiene kits, kitchen utensils as well as personal protective equipment. Neighbours Australia and French administrators from New Caledonia have also offered emergency assistance.
Now, Carlos Acutis, better known as God's influencer, has been cleared by Pope Francis to be the first millennial saint.
Visitors have been flocking the grave and are paying their homage. Take a look.
All right, as always, time now for a short break.
But don't go anywhere. On the other side of World DNA, we'll get you a story where in a high-profile Pune Porsche crash from India state of Maharashtra, officials have seized over 150 plus CCTV clips at the Kalyani Nagar, which is an upscale Pune residential locality. We'll get you the full report after this short break.
Also on the other side, Cyclone Ramal made landfall late on Sunday, pounding Bangladesh and adjoining West Bengal coast between Sagar Islands and Khepupara. This story and more on the other side. Do stay tuned.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Namaste. Hello friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to start again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Here's a look at what we've lined up for you on this side of the show.
Gaza Health Ministry claims at least 35 killed and dozens more injured as a result of Israeli air attacks on camp for displaced people in Rafah.
Speculations on China preparing armada of ferries and civilian vessels to invade Taiwan gathers steam as Beijing steps up pressure campaign against Taipei.
UN estimates at least 670 killed in Papua New Guinea landslide. Authorities scramble to establish evacuation centers on safer ground on either side of massive swathe of debris.
North Korea reportedly notifies Japan of plan to launch space rocket carrying satellite between Monday and midnight of the 3rd of June.
France's Macron touts indispensable ties with Berlin, questions lacking support for Ukraine on a first by French president in nearly 24 years.
Macron decides to lift New Caledonia emergency on Monday evening. Statement by Paris displays the desire to start de-escalation process and re-establish dialogue conditions.
With winds touching speeds of 13 kilometers per hour, Cyclone Remal makes landfall on Bengal coast, leaves trail of destruction.
Davis Riley wins his maiden PGA Tour title by reigning supreme at the Charles Schwab Challenge. The 27-year-old dedicates his win to fellow American golfer Grayson Murray, who passed away at the age of 30. Now, there is a major update in the high-profile Pune Porsche crash from India's state of Maharashtra. Officials have seized over 150-plus CCTV footage at Kalyani Nagar.
Right, team. This is an upscale Pune residential locality. Now, the crime branch officials are looking to speed up the investigation procedure, and the CCTV footage might bring out crucial information of the accused in his bungalow, the accident site, and pubs visited after the accident.
Now, cops also found out that the minor's father and grandfather tried to destroy the evidence after the accident. The father, Vishal Agarwal, also allegedly fabricated a story that the driver caused the accident.
A case has now been registered against the minor's father and grandfather, Surendra Agarwal, for threatening and detaining the driver. 6 accused have so far been arrested in the case, including the driver, the minor's father and grandfather. They've all been charged with tampering with the evidence and threatening the driver.
Meanwhile, Vishal Agarwal has been accused of allowing his minor son to drink and drive.
Moving on, Cyclone Remal made landfall late on Sunday, pounding Bangladesh and the coast between Sagar Islands and Kepupada in the adjoining Indian state of West Bengal.
This is close to the southwest of Mongla district in Bangladesh. Severe cyclonic storm notching a speed of 110 to about 120 kilometers per hour with gushing winds of up to 135 kilometers per hour lay waste over coastal areas of Bangladesh and India's West Bengal. 115 kilometers east of Sagar Islands, West Bengal, 105 kilometers west-southwest of Kepupada, Bangladesh, 70 kilometers southeast of West Bengal and 50 kilometers southwest of Mongla, Bangladesh.
India's Met Department said that the system would continue to move northwards for some more time and then northeastwards and then weaken gradually into a cyclonic storm by the morning of 27th May. The cyclone is forecast to also affect parts of the adjoining Odisha state.
Indian Coast Guard has deployed 9 disaster relief teams at strategic locations. 12 teams of the National Disaster Relief Force have been activated in the area to ensure minimal loss of life and provide emergency assistance. 5 additional groups are on standby.
Indian Navy has readied 2 ships equipped with medical supplies for immediate deployment to ensure the safety and welfare of the affected people. Indian naval aviation assets including Sea King and Chetak helicopters as well as Dornier aircrafts are on standby for rapid response.
All right, let's shift our focus now on a historic first. Indian pilgrims will travel by high-speed train directly from Jeddah to the holy city of Mecca.
Right, Aim. Around 32,000 Indians will take the train this year from Jeddah's King Abdulaziz International Airport.
Now, traditionally, pilgrims arriving in Jeddah, they usually take buses which are provided by Saudi authorities to reach Mecca. But this year, the Consulate General of India in Jeddah has arranged the transportation on the newly launched high-speed rail line in coordination with Saudi officials. This will reduce the travel time from Jeddah to Mecca by half. The highest speed of the train is about 300 kilometers per hour.
It will also provide a smoother transit for the pilgrims after they land in Saudi Arabia. On May 26, the first group of Indian pilgrims embarked on the landmark train journey. Around 175,000 pilgrims from India are expected for this year's Hajj, with 140,000 people arriving through the Hajj Committee of India. The high-speed rail service aims to enhance convenience for a significant portion of them. Indian missions in Saudi Arabia have sought to improve travel facilities for its Hajj contingent over the years.
This latest initiative marks a new milestone in those efforts.
Well, let's now see what's making news in the world of technology. Well, according to reports, Elon Musk is now planning to build a supercomputer to support his AI startup XAI called Gigafactory of Compute. The supercomputer might become functional by the end of 2025. As per reports, the planned supercomputer will be 4 times the size of the biggest GPU clusters that exist today. AI has become an area of fierce competition among tech companies. Just last year, Musk introduced an AI tool named Grok. Grok can access real-time information. It is currently available only to the top-tier subscribers on X, formerly known as Twitter.
As per reports, a Switzerland-based German-language daily newspaper, the Ukraine peace meeting set to be held in Switzerland faces increased risk of cyber attacks from Russian hackers. The conference aims to build a roadmap to peace for Ukraine and to discuss issues such as food security, nuclear safety and humanitarian issues. As of now, over 50 countries have confirmed their attendance at the conference, which will be held on the 15th and the 16th of June, citing IT experts and people within the Swiss Federal Office of Cybersecurity. It reported that Russia, which hasn't been invited to the event, is likely to seek ways to disrupt the gathering.
Who doesn't like to smell good? Well, what if we tell you that AI could predict what perfume you want to wear? A Netherlands-based company claims its perfume machine can do just that, generate unique perfumes for everyone using AI. Well, this is a machine designed to create perfumes. The scents are not designed by product developers but by the user with little help from a few algorithms.
So in this version of the machine with 46 building blocks, you can have over 500 billion possibilities. Of course, you don't need that many, but every formula is unique. So there's not a repetition. Now, that could also be that some formulas are going to be within the same space, but everything generated is unique.
Well, this also includes questions such as what color represents you the best? Who are you as a person? The AI algorithm will then combine the answer to create a unique blend of custom-made perfume for you.
All right, let's shift our focus now. We also take a look at how weather patterns are weighing on food inflation fears.
An index of major crops wiped out 2024's progress as bad weather stokes worries about harvest from wheat to coffee, reviving concerns about rising food prices. Our next report telling you more.
Several important producers are experiencing droughts, frost and heavy rain. The advances might lead to increased costs for bread and drinks. This follows a period of relatively low inflation at the grocery store. Analysts say rising agricultural prices will be sustained by worries about climate change and international politics. Chicago wheat futures on Friday traded near the highest since July 2023. This is due to poor weather in major exporters from Australia to Russia, raising concerns over supplies. Deteriorating harvest prospects in top shipper Russia have fueled the gains. Cocoa futures marked a weekly gain of almost 12%, reversing recent falls. All of these bring back the fears of rising food inflation. Clearly, they tell us that household budgets are going to be stretched yet again. In addition to geopolitical reasons, climate-related costs have run up this year. The rise in commodities price will also weigh on global central banks looking to pivot to monetary policy easing. However, 2020's decision on calling rising inflation as transitory weighs on policymakers. Central bank officials do not want to repeat previous mistakes even as they walk in a thin rope between supporting growth and bring inflation under control. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Now, the global economy is showing surprising resilience. The International Monetary Fund had recently reported that growth is exceeding initial forecasts.
Right, and this is despite ongoing challenges like the pandemic and the war in Ukraine.
The world economy is remarkably resilient despite the hits from COVID, from the war in Ukraine, from the inflationary spike that led to higher interest rates. We are seeing a performance that is better than we expected it to be a year ago.
While inflation surged in 2023, many economies are now experiencing a decline. The job market also remains relatively stable, suggesting continued consumer spending power and supporting growth prospects. However, the IMF warns that policymakers still face significant hurdles.
We are poised for a soft landing, haven't landed just yet. And they have to carefully calibrate based on data when to start cutting interest rates, by how much, and they cannot look at the other central bank for inspiration because countries are now in very different places. For fiscal authorities, this is a very difficult moment. They have to rebuild buffers because they spent and spent and spent in the previous years. At the same time, they need to support the green and digital transformation of their economies.
The global economic picture is one of cautious optimism. Growth is better than expected, but still lags pre-pandemic levels. While inflation is cooling and the job market is stable, policymakers face a complex environment requiring careful data-driven decisions to navigate the road ahead. On the world of sports now, Kolkata Knight Riders are the champions of the Indian Premier League. A sensational performance by their bowlers led by Australia's Mitchell Starc helped Kolkata thrash Sunrisers Hyderabad by 8 wickets in the final.
Well, the victory secured a third IPL title for KK.